Welcome to the Medical Billing Blueprint podcast, where we break down the complexities of medical billing, revenue cycle management, and healthcare compliance. Join us as we explore strategies, tips, and industry insights to help doctors, practice managers, and medical staff optimize their billing processes and boost practice revenue. Let's get it right with the Billing Blueprint.
Welcome to the deep dive. So ever feel like, when you're looking at your practice's finances, it's just like this sea of acronyms.
Yeah.
It's like KPIs. What even is that? And why are those numbers so important to like the health of my practice, financially?
Right. It can feel like you're trying to decipher a secret code sometimes.
Yeah.
But really think of these KPIs as like a financial decoder ring for your practice.
Okay.
Each one of these KPIs, it gives you a little glimpse into how efficiently you're turning all that hard work, all those services you're providing into actual revenue.
Okay, so it's like taking all that complicated stuff and then boiling it down into these more digestible numbers.
Exactly.
Okay, I like it.
Yeah.
So let's unpack some of these KPIs, these decoder rings. I like that.
Yeah.
So first up, I see revenue cycle time. So is this how long does it actually take me to get paid?
That's it. That's exactly what it is. It's like, imagine you're at a restaurant.
Okay.
You order your food, you enjoy your meal. Then the bill comes. How long should you have to wait to actually pay that bill?
Right, you don't want to be sitting there all night.
Exactly. So in medical billing, revenue cycle time, it's that time from when you send out the invoice to when you actually receive the payment.
Okay.
So we're talking about like the speed, right, of your payments. How fast are you getting paid for those services you're providing? The faster that cycle is, the healthier your cash flow is going to be.
It's like the heartbeat of the practice.
Exactly.
Okay, so shorter wait at the restaurant, healthier cash flow for my practice.
I like that analogy.
Okay, I'm starting to get it. But how do we actually measure that in the real world? Because medical billing, it's not always so straightforward.
You're telling me.
It can be complicated.
Yeah, healthcare is not known for its simplicity.
Right.
But when you break it down, at its core, calculating revenue cycle time, it's really just tracking the time between 2 points.
Okay.
When you send the invoice and when that payment arrives.
Yeah.
You subtract the two, and that's your revenue cycle time.
Okay, so we talking days, weeks, months. What's considered, a healthy revenue cycle time?
Well, ideally, you want to aim for 30 days or less.
Okay.
Now, of course, it can vary a little bit depending on what your specialty is or your payer contracts. But if you're consistently seeing 45 days or more, that's a red flag.
Right.
Something's probably off there.
So it's like letting that dinner bill sit there for weeks.
Exactly. And that's going to make it hard to, order anything else.
Yeah, they're going to cut you off.
Exactly.
Okay. So I'm starting to see why, keeping that number low is really crucial. But let's be real. Things don't always go perfectly, right? So what happens when those invoices, they get denied?
Ugh, yeah. Denials. The bane of every medical biller's existence.
Right. Nobody likes that.
And while some denials, they're just unavoidable. A high rate of denials, that's a major warning sign.
Okay.
Think about it like the restaurant losing your food order. Frustrating.
Right.
Right?
The worst.
Yeah.
Especially when you're hungry. So when we say high denial rate, what are we talking? And more importantly, what can we do about it?
Right. So a good benchmark to keep in mind is you want to aim for a denial rate below 5%. Anything that's consistently above 10%, that's really a sign that you need to dig in and investigate.
Okay.
Figure out what's going on. Could be errors in how you're billing. Maybe there are problems with how those procedures are being coded. Could even be issues with the contracts you have with your payers.
So it's like that high denial rate. It's a big old flashing sign that says, check your system.
Exactly.
Something's going on. Okay, I like it. So if a low denial rate is what we're going for, what's the opposite of a denial? Thing that we really want to see a lot of.
You're talking about the first pass rate.
Okay.
This is where you send that claim, and it just sails through. No rejections, no requests for more information.
Beautiful.
Just smooth, timely processing.
Yes. Music to my ears. So first pass rate, that's telling me what percentage of my claims are processed correctly on the first try.
Yes.
No resubmittals, no chasing down information.
Exactly. A high first pass rate means you're minimizing all this back and forth with the payers.
Okay.
It means faster reimbursements. It just makes everyone's life easier.
Streamlined. I like it.
It's like ordering your meal, it's delivered perfectly, and then you pay, and everything's great. No hiccups.
That's what I call efficiency. Okay, so we've got a high first pass rate. Our system's a well-oiled machine. We're getting things through. But what about those invoices that are just kind of lingering out there? They haven't been denied, but they're not paid. That's where days in accounts receivable comes in, right?
Yeah, days in accounts receivable, that's the one that tells you how long those invoices are just like sitting on somebody's desk, just waiting to be paid.
Okay, so it's like, is my food order just like sitting back in the kitchen, getting cold?
Exactly, exactly. You want to know like, hey, where's my food, right? What's going on?
Exactly.
So with days in AR, it's the same idea.
Okay, so how do we even start to like calculate that? Like, is this where it starts getting like really, really complicated?
It's actually not as daunting as it might seem.
Okay.
Essentially, what you're doing is you're looking at your total accounts receivable, which is just the total amount of money that's owed to you for the services you've already provided.
Okay.
And then you factor in your average daily charges and kind of the time frame you're looking at.
Yeah.
And that'll give you like a snapshot of how long it takes, on average, to actually collect on those invoices.
Okay, so maybe a calculator would be helpful, but it's doable.
Exactly.
Okay, I like it. But why does that number matter so much? Like, what's a good days in AR versus like a bad days in AR?
So in general, you want a lower days in AR.
Okay, makes sense.
That means that things are moving, you're collecting more efficiently.
Okay.
The quicker you're collecting, the healthier that cash flow is.
Right.
Now, the benchmark, it can fluctuate a little bit depending on the industry.
Okay.
But, if your days in AR is creeping up above 45 days, that's a good time to say, okay, let's take a look at this. What's going on with our billing? What's going on with our collections? Are there any bottlenecks we can smooth out? How can we improve our communication with payers?
Right, because a stack of unpaid invoices, nobody wants that.
Exactly.
It's all about getting those services, turning them into that cash.
Yes.
Which I think leads us perfectly into our next KPI, collection rate.
Yes, this is the one, this is the bottom line, right?
Okay.
This tells you what percentage of that total billed amount you're actually collecting.
Okay.
So it's a measure of your success in actually tuning those invoices into revenue.
Okay, so higher collection rate, more money in the bank.
Exactly.
Which we all like, right?
Well, it's a good thing.
So how high are we shooting for here?
Well, I mean, you always want to aim for 100%, right?
Right.
But realistically, I think most practices, they're really striving for that 90-95% range. If you start dipping below 90% consistently, that might mean it's time to really take a look at, how you're doing your billing, your collection efforts.
Right.
Making sure that, your financial data is accurate.
It's like finding out only half your dinner guests paid for their meal.
Exactly.
Yep.
It's not really a sustainable business model.
Right, exactly. And not going to last very long.
No.
Okay, so we have a healthy collection rate. Our financial house, it's in order. But what about those invoices that are maybe, starting to creep into that like, overdue territory?
Yes.
How are we keeping track of those?
That's where the aging report comes in.
Okay.
Think of this as like your detective tool.
Okay.
To help you track down those outstanding invoices, and then you can take action before they become, a bigger problem.
Okay, I like that. A detective tool. I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
So picture this, right? You've got this spreadsheet, and it's categorizing all your receivables by how long they've been outstanding, usually in these like 30-day buckets.
Okay.
So you can just glance at it, and you can see, okay, how much money is tied up in invoices that are 30 days old, 60 days, 90 days, so on and so forth.
So it's like an early warning system, right? Like these accounts are creeping into like bad debt land.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And because you can visualize it with these aging buckets, you can prioritize your follow-up. You can focus on those oldest debts first.
Right, get those out of the way.
Exactly. And it lets you be proactive instead of just reacting to problems, after they kind of blow up.
Right, because it's a lot harder to collect on an invoice that's like 6 months old.
Exactly. The longer it sits there, the less likely you are to ever see that money.
Right. Okay, that makes total sense. Much easier to manage when you can see what's going on. Okay, let's shift gears a bit. Let's talk about clean claim percentage.
Yes.
This one sounds, I don't know, kind of self-explanatory, but I feel like there's probably more to it.
Sure. Yeah. It's really about, getting it right the first time.
Okay.
So think about it like this. You go to a restaurant, you're ordering your food, and you get the order perfect.
Yeah.
Everything is correct.
Yes.
The waiter doesn't need to come back and clarify anything, and you get your meal. No problems.
Beautiful. That's what we want.
Exactly. So that's what a clean claim is.
Okay. So a clean claim is one that's submitted correctly the first time around.
First try.
No rejections, no requests for more information.
Exactly. Everything's there.
Yeah.
Accurate patient demographics.
Yeah.
The right procedure codes. It's all in the format that payer wants it in.
Okay, so it's all about like minimizing those back and forths with the payers because I can only imagine how much time that eats up.
Oh, it's a huge time suck, right? So having a high clean claim percentage, that's really a sign of a well-oiled billing process.
Okay.
Less time on rework, faster reimbursement. It just makes the whole revenue cycle smoother.
So it's about working smarter, not harder.
Exactly, exactly.
Okay, but how do we track that? How do we know, what our percentage is?
So you take your total number of clean claims, the ones that were accepted on that first go.
Okay.
You divide that by the total number of claims you submitted in a certain time period, multiply it by 100, and that's your percentage.
Okay, so if we've got a high percentage there, our billing team deserves a pat on the back.
Absolutely. They're doing a fantastic job, which is a win for everybody.
Exactly. Okay, so we've talked about submitting claims, but now I want to look at something that's kind of a bigger picture view of, our financial efficiency. And I think that's where accounts receivable turnover comes in, right?
Yes, accounts receivable turnover.
That sounds very official.
Yeah, it sounds like we're getting into, the nitty-gritty.
I know, the big leagues of financial analysis.
But it's really not that complicated.
Hi.
It's basically telling you how effectively you're taking all that money that's owed to you, your accounts receivable, and converting it into actual cash.
Right. Okay, so it's not just about sending the invoice. It's about, collecting on it consistently and efficiently.
Yes, exactly. A higher accounts receivable turnover rate, that means you have a shorter collection cycle.
Oh, okay.
Which means you're getting paid faster.
Right.
And you're managing that cash flow more effectively.
Okay, so it's like a revolving door, right? We want those invoices to go out and the payments to come in?
Exactly. The faster they turn over, the smoother your business is going to operate.
Okay, that makes sense. But how do we actually calculate that? Is it as complicated as it sounds?
It's more straightforward than it might sound. You take your total revenue for a certain period.
Okay.
And you divide it by the average balance of your accounts receivable for that same time.
Okay.
And that gives you a sense of how many times you're, on average, collecting on those outstanding invoices.
Okay, so more turns is better.
Yeah.
More frequently, more efficiently. That's what we're going for.
The more turns, the better.
Yeah.
Yeah. It usually means that you have a healthier revenue cycle.
Yeah.
You've got good processes in place. You're not letting those invoices just sit there.
Got it. Okay. I like it. So it's all starting to come together now. But we have one final piece of the puzzle, I think, that we need to uncover.
Yes.
And that is average reimbursement per claim.
Yes.
This one feels like it goes beyond just efficiency and
Yeah.
more about how much value are we actually getting for those services that we're providing?
Yeah. This is a big one, right? Because it tells you how much you're actually being paid for each of those services. And, that can really vary.
Right.
It depends on what kind of procedures you're doing, the contracts you have with those payers, even where your practice is located geographically.
So it's not just about the quantity of claims, it's the quality, how much are they actually bringing
Well,
in?
exactly. Imagine two restaurants, right? Serving the same number of customers.
Okay.
But one restaurant has a way higher average check size.
Right. They're making more money.
They're bringing in more revenue.
Right.
It's the same concept.
That makes sense. So how do we calculate that? Yeah. Average reimbursement per claim.
So you take the total amount of reimbursement you've gotten from your payers over a certain period, you divide it by the total number of claims you submitted in that same time.
Okay.
And that'll give you kind of an average of what you're getting per claim.
Okay. So is there I don't know, a magic number, a good average? What are we looking for?
It'd be nice if there was just a one-size-fits-all.
Right.
But it really depends. It depends on your specialty, who your payers are, what you're actually doing.
Right.
But the important thing is to track it over time, right?
Okay.
So you can see if there are any big dips, any big changes that, might need you to look into it a little deeper.
So if all of a sudden my dinner only costs half as much, I'm going to be hold on, something's going on here.
Exactly. Exactly. So if you see this big drop in your average reimbursement, could be that a payer changed their policy.
Right.
Could be a coding error. Could be an issue with one specific contract.
Wow. This is eye-opening. I think we get so caught up in providing, great care to our patients that sometimes we forget about all this stuff.
It's true. And if you're neglecting these KPIs, it's like you're sailing a ship without a compass. You might be working really hard,
Yeah.
but you don't really know if you're going in the right direction.
Right. You might just be going in circles.
Exactly.
So what would you say the key takeaway is from our deep dive today?
These 9 KPIs, they're not just numbers.
Right.
They're vital signs for your practice.
Okay.
And if you keep an eye on them, you can catch problems early.
Okay.
You can really improve that revenue cycle and make sure that, in the long term, your practice is financially healthy.
It's like a financial checkup.
Exactly.
Little preventative care. Well, we covered a lot of ground today, from revenue cycle time all the way to average reimbursement per claim. We learned how to actually measure them, why they matter, and hopefully how you can use them to make better decisions for your practice.
Yes, and remember, knowledge is power.
Okay.
So use this knowledge to really take control of your financial future.
Love it. So as we wrap up our deep dive today, we want to leave you with this. You learned about the what and the why of these KPIs.
Yes.
But the how is really where your journey begins.
Exactly.
So how are you going to use this knowledge to make your practice even better? Until next time, happy diving.